A very good evening to you. You're live here on GHOne TV. It's time for news tonight with me, Natalie. Let's start with a look at our top stories. Coming up tonight, Ofori Atta sues 2 police officers for trespass and breach of his rights to privacy. More as the former finance minister demands damages, saying filming of raid portrayed him as a criminal. Supreme Court in a 4-1 decision agrees to hear applications filed by embattled Akwatia MP despite contempt conviction by Ofori High Court. On Insights tonight, we focus on budgetary provision for initiatives within the health and education sectors.
Try to put all manner of disease on the National Health Insurance Scheme, it will collapse.
Some parents complain when their wards ask them for money to buy sanitary pad.
And in business this evening, the Energy Minister attributes recent erratic power supply in the Ashanti region to obsolete equipment.
On assumption of office, this administration took urgent steps to replace approximately 3 kilometers of 40 lines on that section in order to ameliorate the challenge.
We bring you these stories and much more news here on News Tonight. Tuesday. This is News Tonight here on GHOne TV, all across the world, streaming on Facebook at GHOne TV. Top on the news this evening, former Finance Minister Kenneth Nana Yaw Ofori Atta has sued 2 senior police officers for trespassing and violating his rights to privacy. The actions of the 2 defendants, DSP Bismarck Boache Ansah and Chief Inspector Mensah, also known as Sir Mensah, were deemed trespassery and a violation of his rights to privacy. According to the plaintiff, the writ of summons filed on March 10, 2025 was premised on an incident that occurred on February 11, 2025, in which a group of individuals, including some in military and police uniforms, allegedly raided his residence in Cantonments. Legal Affairs correspondent Murtala Inusa joins me now with more. Now, Murtala, it's good to have you. For the first time, we're getting first-hand information on how this raid happened from Mr. Ofori Atta's camp. Run us through. Murtala, you're muted. Can you unmute?
Yeah, Natalie, can you hear me now?
Yes, very well. Do carry on.
Yes, like rightly indicated, on the 11th of February, an incident happened which in the home of the former finance minister. We didn't know that he's out of the country, and so occupants of the facility are those that the said officers went to meet. And in fact, what we have been told is that they ransacked virtually the whole place, took videos of all the whole place, and then took custody. In fact, and that, as it were, put some kind of fear in those occupants of the house. And when that was brought to his attention, he thinks that the best way to deal with the matter is to hold the officers before the law for them to come and answer questions in relation to that. So yesterday, in fact, on the 10th of March, that was on Monday, he caused his lawyers to issue a writ against these officers in relation to their action that took place on the 11th of February.
Right, and Murtala, run us through what impact the former finance minister has said that this raid has had on him.
Yes, of course. Like he mentioned in the raid by way of his statement of case, he made it clear that those that were met at home are traumatized because the manner in which the officers raided the house, they were holding guns and other stuff, other ammunition, so that, as it were, put fear. They managed to find out from the officers, in fact, the Inspector General of Police, the IGP, the CDS, and in fact, National Security, all of them have not represented any response by way of whether that particular action taken by the officers were sanctioned by these agencies. But of course, what he made clear was that the occupant, the domestic staff that he left in the facility, were left traumatized by this action of the said officers who raided the facility.
Right, Natalie. Now, prior to going on this legal path, taking the legal route to address this, the former finance minister was seeking answers as to who exactly was behind this raid. Were those answers provided? Has he gotten clarity on that?
Yes, so it was clear that his answer that he was seeking, it was not immediately clear those who were behind it, especially so also because he sought some response from the IGP. As we speak, he made the point that that response has not come. Also from the national security, there was no response as at now by way of the time that he was initiating the court action against these officers. He also mentioned the point that even in the military, all attempt to find some responses to as to whether this particular action or this raid was sanctioned by the officers who indeed carry out that particular activity. He hasn't gotten any response for now, leading to the fact that he has to embark on a court action to be able to put these officers or to ask the court to restrain them, because as it stands now, it doesn't look like they will stop doing any that activity anytime soon. So the Supreme Court or the court is proper place to be able to deal with by way of restraining them, and also some reliefs that he thought that it is fit for the court to compensate him with.
Now, Murtala, having said that, run us through briefly what exactly he's seeking in the writ, what these reliefs spelled out are.
In fact, if you look at the action that he has initiated, he's seeking damages in relation to the action carried out. Again, he's also asking for a compensation in the form that will really make up for the loss that he has actually suffered by way of the domestic staff that were at the home or in that particular facility when the officers were. And more so, he's seeking a restraining order, stopping or injuncting these officers from further carrying out activities of that nature. And of course, his legal fees will not be left out, asking the court to give him compensation in such a way that the legal fees or costs that he will incur in the course of this particular action will be borne by the defendant in this particular action.
Right, Namusa, finally on this, run us through, do you have any more information as to these two defendants, the officers, and have we had a response from them as it stands?
Yes, clearly, if you look at the laws and how the laws were in relation to action that have been initiated, what is clear is that they have 8 days to be able to enter appearance, and then let the court know that they are interested in prosecuting this case or prosecuting their defense by way of the action that has been initiated. If they fail to do that, it means that default judgment will be entered against them. But what is clear is that they are still within time. In terms of response, in the coming day, within 8 days, they have to enter an appearance by way of telling the court that yes, they have received the processes and that their intention is to contest whatever has been stated. But as at now, we haven't had that particular response or entry of appearance yet from these defendants who have been listed, the two of them, of course, in this particular action.
Very well, Murtala. I'm going to ask that you stay with us on Zoom because we're still going to be in court as we'll be addressing this other issue. The Supreme Court has, by a 4-1 majority decision, ruled that it will hear the applications filed by Member of Parliament for Akwatia Ernest Yao Kumi, despite his contempt conviction by the Ofori High Court. This was after the panel of 5, presided over by Justice Gabriel Puamang, heard submissions from lawyers in the case to address the Apex Court on the legal effect of granting hearing to a contemner who had not purged himself of contempt. Our legal affairs correspondent Murtala Inusa is still with us to give us details on this issue. Now, Murtala, as per the law, we know that a contemner is generally not entitled to be heard, right? And this is unless he or she has purged themselves of this contempt. Clarify this, first of all, and what reasons did the courts give for agreeing to hear Ernest Kumi?
Well, Natalie, this very matter, for those who remember, I think the 6th of February was when it all started at the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court panel felt that, look, that we have laws in Ghana that works, and so if a court of competent jurisdiction is asking you to appear before it, no matter how wrong the court may be, you may have to appear and make your voice heard for the court to make a determination. Once that is done, if you disagree, the hierarchy of the court makes rules for that to be remedied. However, Ernest Yaokumi has not appeared before the High Court in Ofori, and for that matter, they were of the Supreme Court was of the considered view that once that has not been done, they felt that no, they cannot give him hearing by way of giving him audience at the Supreme Court, except when he's able to go to the High Court and purge himself out of contempt in the manner in which the High Court has convicted him. Fast forward, the court exercised restraint and said, look, we are asking the lawyers, we are asking the parties, especially the applicants, Ernest Yaokumi and his lawyers, to come and explain to the court, to come and address the court by way of legal submissions, why they should be granted audience, why he has not appeared before the Ofori High Court to deal with the issue, but has come to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to deal with him. Today, the matter was called, and interestingly, lawyers of Ernest Yaokumi, led by Gary Nimako, advanced argument, especially one thing that he said was that, look, when it is clear that the High Court, or the court did not give him a proper hearing, would not give him audience, and the court went ahead to make a determination in the nature of this very case, then it is only fair that they come to the Supreme Court for the apex court of the land to quash that particular decision. Having said that, the apex court called upon the lawyers of the interested party, that is the NDC side of the issue. But what counsel Bernard Bediako indicated to the court is that for them, their main concern is with the substantive matter that was filed by Ernest Kumi. But the issue about whether he should be granted audience at the Supreme Court or not, they leave that to the conscience, or they leave that to the determination of the bench. The Electoral Commission, represented by Justin Amenuvo Council, make the point that, look, they do not have so much to say except to draw the court's attention to an earlier decision, even though not a contempt case, but that mandamus application, for those who remember, in the December, after the December 7 election, the disputed seat that came out, it went to the High Court, and then the NDC side took it to the Supreme Court and all of that. So the court listened to them, and they said that at this particular point in time, they are voting, and after voting, out of the 5 panel, 5-1.
Now, Murtala, you've highlighted the response of the NDC there. So we're going to have to wrap it up now, but we'll certainly engage subsequently on this issue. Thank you so much for your time this evening. That's our legal affairs correspondent, Murtala Inusa. Now, let's return to our earlier story on the former finance minister taking legal action following the raid of his home. And that's Ken Ofori, who has sued 2 senior police officers for trespassing and violating his right to privacy. We've got on lawyer Martin Pegu, who's joining us for reactions on this issue. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Now, what's your take on this step taken by the former finance minister?
Okay, so I like to say, cut to the chase. It is the case that, unfortunately, the law, as I know it, and as stated in Act 30, and we'll shortly read it, permits a police officer, 1, if he's an ASP or above, that's after chief inspector, to go to assistant superintendent of police. That's a proper officer. We call them police officers, but within their ranks, officers start from ASP, a proper officer. So ASP, DSP, superintendent, ACP, chief super, I make them up. I'm just mentioning. So all those people, the law says that they can enter a premises without a search warrant. 1, they can enter. Then 2, they can search without a search warrant. Unfortunately, then that's the state of the law. All right. And so it's difficult. But what I like about the case is that it will bring that discussion back to the fore, that we should amend our laws and not allow a policeman to come in without a warrant. This is a 1960 law. So you even find judges asking those of us who do advocacy that we are not advocating enough for the amendment of the law. There have been times that previous governments have tried, but it didn't go far. So that is the law when it comes to the police officers. If it were national security people, etc., and you see that securities and intelligence agencies are asking them to go to court, and then the signal bureau, etc. So you can see that for our modern laws, yes, let me call them modern because these ones are after the year 2020, right? Yes, those ones act the national security officer to go to court. But there's a small provision somewhere there that says that instead of going to court, they can choose to go to a senior police officer.
Right, Lawyer Pebu. So with that being said, you say it's within their domain to raid his home. However, how about the aspect of going further to film, and in this case, filming some private spaces of his home? Is that going a bit too far? Is that still within the remits of their work?
No, for filming, the law didn't say they have the right to film. So that may come up for the interpretation because issues of privacy. Except that when you talk about those ones who, the Constitution has made general exemptions for sections. So what I'm saying is that, yes, it is possible to justify filming if what you're saying is that, look, if I don't film this thing, by the time we come back next time, it will be gone. Yes, so it's all about how the justification is articulated, because the Constitution broadly allows it. Yes, because it says don't interfere with the privacy of a person, except when it comes to the public safety, detecting crimes, etc. Yes. Do you want us to read the sections? The ones I've discussed so far. We have time to read them, but verbatim or insufficient.
Right, Martin. Lawyer Martin Pebu, thank you so much for your time this evening. We'll certainly engage you subsequently for more on this. Lawyer Martin Pebu there reacting to the legal action taken by former Finance Minister Ken Ofori following the raid of his home. You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. We bring you insight next. On Insights this evening, we focus on fallouts of Tuesday's budget presentation. Let's start with Health and Sector Minister, that is Kwabena Minta Akando, says that there's no reliable source of funding for the free dialysis treatment on the NHIS program. This program, implemented in the latter part of President Akufo-Addo's second term, was to cater for the growing needs of kidney disease patients. He revealed this during the inauguration of a 9-member technical task force to develop a policy framework and modules for funding the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund, also known as Mahama Cares. There's more in this report.
According to the World Health Organization, non-communicable diseases account for 42% of all deaths in Ghana, with cardiovascular diseases comprising 19% and cancers 5% of all mortality cases. This is why government is inaugurating the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund, also known as the Mahama Cares, to comprehensively address the treatment of chronic illnesses, including cancer, kidney disease, and heart conditions. The initiative is a bold response to these challenges as promised by the NDC in their manifesto. Here is the Health Minister speaking on the need of a task force to implement the policy.
There was no sustainable sources of funding for the dialysis. It never happened. I was a ranking member on the committee, and at the time we even suggested to make provision for dialysis, and they allocated 2 million Ghana cedis, and they had to go and take about additional 2 million from corporate social responsibility. I can tell you 4 million Ghana cedis cannot take care of dialysis in the whole country. So they need to be a sustainable and a reliable sources of funding. Look, if we decide to put all manner of disease on the National Health Insurance Scheme, it will collapse. We can't afford to put all these diseases on the National Health Insurance. That's why there's a need for us to provide this special purpose vehicle, a reliable one, so that if you are confronted with this chronic disease, it will not be the case that because you cannot afford the treatment, you then be
mind, soul, spirit, to alleviate the great suffering of people in this nation.
The technical task force is to develop a robust policy and legal framework to establish Mahama Cares as a statutory entity, design a sustainable funding model to ensure the fund's viability for generations, establish clear and transparent eligibility and disbursement criteria to guarantee fairness and efficiency, and evaluate the current healthcare infrastructure and suggest improvements to ensure accessibility.
Let's now dig deeper on budgetary allocation for the health sector. Member of our research desk, Adam Kojo, is in studio with much more on that. Adam, first of all, how much really has been allocated within the health sector?
Okay, so when we go to the budget, so yesterday the minister presented the speech, but we've got a copy of the full budget that includes actual estimates of the various agencies and sectors. Now in front of me I have the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health has a total budgetary allocation of 17.8 billion Ghana cedi. So that's what we have for the Ministry of Health. We have health infrastructure in there, the e-health project, mental health, La General Hospital actually features in there, and nursing and trainee allowances also features heavy in there. So for the Ministry of Health, 17.8 billion. However, when you move into some other statutory items and agencies, you have the National Health Fund, which has 9.93 billion.
Okay, so this is it's separate from the 17.8.
So yes, so we would have thought that because the National Health Authority or National Health Insurance Scheme was health related, probably will also have been part of the entire health budget. But I realized that there is the National Health Fund, which yesterday were interestingly told by the Finance Minister would be uncapped this year. So this year the National Health Insurance Scheme or National Health Insurance Authority is expected to have its full budgetary allocation of 9.93 billion. Now, in there, and the Finance Minister made mention of it there, that 9.93 billion is to cater for claims payments, essential medicines, vaccine payments, bridging the USAID financing shortfall, the free primary healthcare policy of the President, and finally, the Ghana Medical Care Trust, also known as the Mahama Case. So what we believe is that this 9.93 billion is what would also probably feed into the creation of the Mahama Case.
Interesting. Now, let's turn our attention to these concerns being raised by the Health Minister, specifically on the reliable source of funding for free dialysis of the NHIS. Share some more from that as per what you've gathered.
Okay, so what we have gathered, and this free dialysis was first announced in the middle of last year as a 6-month pilot. With a 6-month pilot, what we saw from the budget approved by the National Health Insurance Authority last year was a 2 million allocation, which I think the minister did mention, and he also mentioned of an additional 2.4 million in terms of CSR, corporate social responsibility, to support. But that 4.4 million, as he rightly said, was not adequately enough to take care of the entire stream, and I'll explain why. Now, per some research documents that we've also seen, it's estimated that there are 1,200, maximum of 1,200 people in Ghana who need dialysis treatments. What we also find out is that per the approved fees from government, each session is 491 Ghana cedi, and they are supposed to do a session of 8 per month. So when you do the calculation, you get a figure of about 56.7 million Ghana cedi. So that is how the whole figure comes in, that okay, you are allocated 4 million, but then the fee is 57. But yes, the thing we need to note, the first 6 months was a pilot, which had to do with people who were less than 18 years and those older than 60 years. Eventually, when the full rollout was announced by government in December last year, or the previous government in December last year, what we have picked up, information we are getting from high sources in the National Health Authority system and the Parliament's Health Committee, tells us that an amount of 57 million Ghana cedi was part of the appropriation that was approved by Parliament for the first quarter of this year. So when Parliament, or when the previous government went for a 3-month advance, the amount of money that was approved for the NHIA then included some 57 million Ghana cedi for dialysis. So the question then becomes that, okay, if that was approved in that budget, is that not already funds that could be made available to take care of the dialysis, free dialysis for the entire year? That's the first question that comes in. But then the second question that comes into is, okay, beyond this year, what is the sustainability plan? But as the Minister of Finance said yesterday, the National Health Insurance levy has been uncapped and 9.93 billion is going out. So question is, 57 million out of 9.93 billion, is it really a substantial amount to shake the system? Well, we leave it for viewers and the experts to continue the debate.
We certainly do, Adam. Thank you so much for detailing that, Adam, there from our research desk. You're watching news tonight here on GHOne TV. Still on Insight, Minister for Finance, Dr. Atta, has also announced that the government will allocate some 292.4 million cedis for free sanitary pad distribution to young girls in pre-tertiary schools across the country. Deputy Presidential Spokesperson Shamima Muslim joins now with more. Shamima, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on News Tonight. Now, first of all, this comes as good news to many, but how exactly does the government intend on identifying which girls are in pre-tertiary schools are actually eligible to receive these free sanitary pads?
Thank you once again. That was also a very brilliant analysis from your in-house analyst, and so kudos to him as well. And we take the opinions that are coming up from everywhere. We take them on board and we will respond to those that require to be responded to and clarify those that we need to clarify. Regarding the free sanitary pad for girls, obviously the primary target is girls who are in their periods. There are 12 million pads that we are planning to release as of this particular year under this current budget. And mostly the primary targets are public schools across the country. The Ghana Education Service has all those statistics and figures. We will always start with the most vulnerable schools that would have a population of the most vulnerable children who may come from households and families that are largely unable to take care of those needs of theirs. As you know, it is not everyone who is in their periods in all public schools who may present themselves to receive those pads, even though they will be made available to all public schools. There are a few private schools that are also located in poor communities that are providing essential intervention for these communities that do not have public schools. There will be special targeting of those schools, but in all, for this particular year, we're expecting to distribute not less than 12 million sanitary pads for girls in primary school and secondary school.
12 million, very well. Now, will the government be purchasing these pads from local manufacturers? Are we going to be involving international suppliers?
As you have heard the president continue to say, and I think that he's been quite insistent on ensuring local content participation. And so we are expecting to see more local participation in this project than foreign.
So, but there will be foreign involvement. Is the local participation going to meet the demand?
Most likely.
You're not
in
certain?
The coming days, we will hear the full details. As you would know, this particular project is going to be jointly implemented by the Ghana Education Service together with the Gender Ministry. As you heard from the Finance Minister, to all sector ministers are going to present more detailed accounts of their programs and plans, and they will be answering these specific questions on the specific rollout of their various programs when we begin our Meet the Press series, as well as when they also take their turn on the floor of Parliament to justify their appropriations to their various ministries.
Right, so you say that you will involve local companies, but you're not quite certain as yet as to whether they will meet this demand. Now,
we are very certain. Natalie, do not put words in our mouths. We have made an announcement that not less than 12 million sanitary pads. We definitely know where those sanitary pads are coming from. You're asking for details that sits in the mouth of the Education Ministry and the Gender Ministry, which details they will be communicating to the general public in due time.
Very well, Shamima. When is this set to begin? When is the distribution process commencing?
Again, the timelines will be announced by the implementing ministries, but definitely this year.
Very well. Shamima Muslim, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on News Tonight. We'll certainly get more on that as it develops and bring you the latest on it. You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. Now, some pre-tertiary students have expressed their appreciation for the initiative of making sanitary pads readily available and affordable.
And I'm very happy because nowadays pad is very expensive. So if the Minister of Finance is producing sanitary pad for us, it's a good news because it costs 20 cedis, and for the whole year, if I'm going to get free pad for 20 cedis, I think it's going to help, and I would save money too. Some of the parents don't give their wards enough money to purchase pad. I think it's a good thing since now we'll be able to save enough money, like 20 cedis each and every year. So if you're not buying pad, I think it's a good thing.
Some parents complain when their wards ask them for money to buy sanitary pad. So the government providing it for us will help take the burden out of them and us.
Honestly, I think it's a very good initiative that the government has brought up, because in certain situations like those who live in the rural areas, most of the time they don't have money to purchase some of these goods, especially the price is very high, like it costs about 20 cedis. So if the government has put in place this kind of initiative, it will help them to be able to go to school instead of missing school just because they are in their period.
Even some of my friends and my classmates in class, sometimes the money their parents use to send them are very little. So for them to purchase that sanitary pad is very expensive. So I think what the finance minister is doing is very good, because they will be able to save some money, and also they will be able to get some sanitary pad to cure themselves when they are in that period.
More on that issue subsequently. That wraps up Insights for tonight. Watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. In other news this evening, tragedy struck in the early hours of Tuesday when two rival groups of illegal timber loggers clashed in the forested area of Sitri in the Drabuso district of the Western North region. The violent confrontation resulted in the death of 5 individuals, with several others left severely injured. According to sources, the groups were reportedly involved in unauthorized timber harvesting activities that have been increasingly common in the region. Tensions between the two groups had been escalating over control of prime logging areas, which ultimately led to the fatal conflict. The incident, which took place in Ajit saw the two factions engage in a deadly confrontation using machetes, pump-action guns, and other tools commonly used in their illicit activity. Eyewitnesses claim that the situation quickly spiraled out of control, leading to the tragic deaths. A Mitsubishi pickup with registration number GE9075-17 was also set ablaze during the scuffle. The deceased have been identified as members of one group, though their identities are yet to be confirmed by authorities. The police have since been deployed to the area to carry the dead bodies and ensure calm. The injured individuals have been rushed to the Seshi Asa Winso hospitals for treatment. The clash has drawn widespread concern over the growing threat posed by illegal logging activities in the region. In other news tonight, the Forestry Commission has arrested 3 Chinese and 9 Ghanaians for mining in Tano Inuya Forest Reserve in the Century Forest District of the Western North region. A joint operation by the Rapid Response and District Monitoring teams of the Forestry Commission was conducted on Tuesday, March 11, as part of ongoing efforts to curb illegal mining activities which continue to threaten Ghana's forest reserves.
In a renewed crackdown on illegal mining, the Forestry Commission's Rapid Response and District Monitoring team stormed compartments 17 and 63 of the Tano Inuya Forest Reserve, leading to the arrest of 12 suspected illegal miners. Among them were 3 Chinese, Cheng Yang, Yang Gidong, and Ling Ta, who were found operating an excavator deep within the forest. The remaining 9 suspects, all believed to be Ghanaians, were engaging in the dig and wash method of illegal mining at the time of the arrest. They were identified as Timothy Yao, George Bonye, Joseph Ayu, Tanzon Mark, Kofi Salifu, and Francis. Others were Legosi, Justin Dakora, Bismarck Lebesu, and Boy Bedua. All the suspects have been handed over to the Enchi District Police for further investigations and possible prosecution. Meanwhile, arrangements are underway to move the confiscated excavator to the Enchi Municipal Assembly premises for safekeeping. The Tano Inuya Forest Reserve has been under increasing threat from illegal mining operations. Earlier on 9th March, a joint operation by the Forestry Commission and military led to the seizure of 8 excavators, a bulldozer, and a pump-action rifle in the reserve. Anti-Forest District Manager Joseph Apia Frimpong reiterated the Commission's commitment to ending illegal mining and logging in the nation's forest reserves.
Watching news tonight here on GHOne TV. We bring you business news shortly, where the Energy Minister attributes the recent erratic power supply in the Ashanti region to obsolete equipment. Details on this shortly. Stay with us on News Tonight. On News Tonight and Business News this evening, the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, GHOne, has attributed the recent erratic power supply in the Ashanti region to obsolete equipment. Power consumers in the region have been complaining of unstable supply. Answering questions from Swame MP John Darko about the development, the minister disclosed power supply in Kumasi in the Ashanti region has improved tremendously following some measures taken by the government to tackle the recent power crisis. Mr. Jinapo also attributed the situation to the increased demand for power in that region.
From December through to January, there were several major challenges and outages in respect of supplying reliable power within that enclave. This went on and continued well into January, Mr. Speaker, and did not relent. And so, on assumption of office, this administration took urgent steps to replace approximately 3 kilometers of 40 lines on that section in order to ameliorate the challenge. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to announce that since those repairs were completed, power supply to that area has improved tremendously and significantly. We will continue to monitor the situation and to undertake emergency remedial measures when it becomes necessary.
Let's now engage a private energy consultant and lecturer at the Department of Renewable Energy at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. Dr. Eric Efa Donina joins us now. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us here on News Tonight. Now, the excuse given by the minister, obsolete machines. How valid of an excuse is this?
Good evening, and let me wish your cherished listeners a good evening. Yeah, it is true that certain sections of the electricity distribution infrastructure is obsolete and quite often overloaded. You have got the ECG saying that the energy crisis or the electricity supply crisis experienced in Kumasi recently were caused by the failure of certain underground cables. It is assumed or it is believed that when underground cables get overloaded, they get heated, they heat up and then they blow up, or some other issues can crop up which will lead to the failure of the underground cables. And it's not only the underground cables which are obsolete. We have some transformers which are also overloaded. Some conductors are also overloaded, carrying more electricity than they were designed to carry. And so the network itself requires upgrading, modernization, and sometimes the introduction of smart technology to make the system robust enough. The system we have today, it's not uniform.
Well, that was Dr. Eric Efa joining us on that issue, explaining the fact that indeed some of these machines are obsolete, or in other words, need to be modernized and are archaic. Now, Doc, I would also like to pick your thoughts on this. You say that indeed this is a valid explanation provided by the minister, but what is the more sustainable solution beyond these obsolete machines? Looks like we're having a bit of trouble reaching him there, having clear feedback with him, but certainly more on that issue subsequently, as explained by the Minister for Energy and Green Transition on the erratic power supply in the Ashanti region. You're watching News Tonight. Let's turn to some other business news stories. Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Employment Agency, YEA, Malik Basintale, says his outfit is targeting to employ over 200,000 employees into the private and public sector before the end of 2025. He made the statement while signing a memorandum with G4S Security Services Ghana.
Youth Employment Agency on Wednesday signed a memorandum of understanding with G4S Security Service Ghana Limited to facilitate the recruitment of over 6,000 employees by the end of the year. Chief Executive of the Youth Employment Agency, Malik Basintale, disclosed that the partnership is aimed to create job opportunities for the Ghanaian youth while supporting G4S in building a skilled and reliable workforce. Speaking to the media after the signing, Chief Executive of the Youth Employment Agency, Malik Basintale, called on the youth to take hold of the opportunity and apply to the agency's website from the 17th of March.
Our target is to create close to 200,000 jobs within a year, and YEA is poised for action. Today alone, we have deducted 6,000 from the 200,000 jobs. Weeks ago, we secured some few slots and then we put them out to launch the portal on Monday, the 17th of March. Once the portal is launched, anyone who wishes to apply should only log on to apply.yea.gov.gh and then you get to apply.
Persons interested in applying for these jobs have been cautioned to be wary of scammers.
Please, we know that once we launch the portal, scammers and fraudsters will also launch their portal and they'll be working hand in hand with us. And be very, very careful. Before you apply, make sure you're applying on the original and authentic, YEA website so that you don't get scammed. And it's for such reason that in the near future, we seek to launch an app that will create a leverage and opportunity basically to ensure that people could simply go on there and then search for jobs.
At the end of 2024, Ghana's unemployment rate stood at 3.6%. Malik Basintale is therefore calling on the private sector to emulate G4S, stating that President Mahama has promised to reward all private sector companies that would support government in reducing Ghana's unemployment deficits.
His Excellency the President has made it a point that private sector that will collaborate with the government sector in securing job opportunities for the younger generation will adequately be rewarded. And in times of benefits, we will not forget to first of all remember all those private institutions.
Still in business, former Deputy Finance Minister Dr. Stephen Amoah has lauded government's decision to reduce the ceiling of the tax refund accounts to address the revenue loopholes from scrapping some 4 tax handles. Yesterday, the Finance Minister Dr. Atta announced a reduction of the ceiling by 2% to free some 3.8 billion cedis for the budget. But reacting to this, the Nshaiso MP described the move as financial brilliance. He, however, questioned the decision to increase taxes in the mining sector, which has contributed significantly to the country's economic growth.
I won't say expert, but somebody that is my field. I want to be ethical. Anybody that condemns that outright, I disagree. But it's not enough to fill the gap. But he's also dealing with mining sector. So maybe he's adding that to it. What he did about the refund thing, we call something in strategic financial management. I think Atta made the right decision. I know I will be attacked, but let's face it, we will all serve God. I hope you understand what I'm saying. But one thing that I also disagree with Atta is the mining sector is a sector that we depend on when we're in trouble. They help us to grow. So why are you going to touch them? So I don't think we are treating the mining sector very well.
Well, that's it for the business news this evening. Do stay with us. We bring you sports news shortly after this. Watching news tonight. Now we've got sports news with Joel next. Joel, what's in sports for us tonight?
All right, Natalie, a lot. The Champions League is currently underway.
Yes.
Dortmund are losing, actually. They are playing away in this particular Champions League. But for the likes of Barcelona and the rest, they've all qualified to the next round. And also, is Dortmund actually leading 2-1? But, on aggregate, they are not the ones winning.
They're not the ones winning.
Exactly. But Kumasi Asante Kotoko, it's in the news because there's an issue with regards to Pole that we've got in the news, as well as Kotoko also qualifying to the next round of the MTN FA Cup. So that's all we have. That's what we have for you here on the sports segment. We start off with Kumasi Asante Kotoko, who are next to the next round of the MTN FA Cup after defeating 11 Wise by a lone goal just this evening. And so the Porcupine Warriors will now face Division 1 League Zone 3 side True Democracy in the quarterfinals of the MTN FA Cup. So they've been paired with True Democracy. It wasn't 11 Wise who could make it to the next round of the MTN FA Cup. It was Kumasi Asante Kotoko who won by a lone goal to book a place to face True Democracy. Still in the camp of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, 2 out of the 3 cases related to the murder of Pole, the Asante Kotoko fan, were called in court yesterday and presided over by His Worship Eric Denning.
District Magistrate Court B was the center of legal proceedings as 2 cases involving the murder of Pole, a Kotoko fan, was heard. The first case involved former Employment Minister and former Member of Parliament for Sunyani West, Honorable Balfour Ewa, his bodyguard, Inspector Dia Ajiman, and 1 Treme. Police investigators informed the court that forensic examination of exhibits is currently being conducted in Accra, and results were awaited. They therefore prayed for an adjournment, which the court granted, setting the next hearing for April 2nd, 2025. In the second case, which involves a woman believed to be the girlfriend of Brian, who remains at large, the court revised the bail conditions for the accused, Grace Siao. Originally set at 3 sureties and 50,000 Ghana cedis, the court has now reduced the surety requirements to 2. Additionally, she has been directed to report to the Ghana Police CID in the Bono region daily and deposit her travel documents with the court registry. Her next court appearance is scheduled for March 19. In an unexpected development, the presiding judge, His Worship Eric Denning, took the opportunity to advise the Ghana Football Association, GFA, to provide security protection for all 16 football clubs in the league. However, he emphasized that Kumasi Asante Kotoko, due to its high profile, should receive extra security for both home and away matches. He also urged the club itself to implement additional security measures for its players and supporters.
All right, before we wrap up, let's bring you some updates on the Independent Arm Wrestling Challenge that we are heavily involved here. It's going to be live on GHOne TV later on Saturday, so make sure you're there. It is Ghana who's going to be hosting the likes of Nigeria, Togo, and Benin at the Center Point Mall Atomic Roundabout at 5 p.m. prompt, and it's going to be live here on GHOne TV. So make sure you're there in your numbers to support Ghana to victory as we all part of this particular one on Saturday. All right, that's how we wrap up. But Natalie, I'm sure you'll be there on Saturday.
I will.
You have to. Yeah, very interesting. I'm sure we'll bring the table here if you're around to read, and we'll have a challenge here.
Sure, I will.
All right, that's it.
It'll be fun to try. Yeah. Thank you so much for the sports news there, Joel. You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. E-Zone is next. On GHOne this evening in tonight's edition of How Ghanaian Are You? We hit the streets to test how well-informed Ghanaians are about the newly created administrative regions. We asked citizens one simple but crucial question: what is the capital of the Northeast region? Watch as we uncover how updated Ghanaians are on this important aspect of the country's administrative divisions.
The capital of Northeast.
No, I don't know. Northeast. Oh, I can't really tell. Northeast. Is it what?
Northeast. Northeast. I should be. Come on,
I'm going to me.
Northeast. Well, I'm not familiar with it. Tamale.
Northeast. Savannah.
Hey, they want me to go inside the book.
Well, so did you know the answer? If you didn't, now you do. The correct one is Nalerigu. That's the capital of Northeast. We're bringing you a lot more on that edition. That's how we draw the curtains on News Tonight this evening. Thank you so much for making the time. Do visit our website, starfm.com.gh.